I need to make an attempt to try and understand the words, enough words where I can know when they're telling me to be quiet or have a beer or something, because it's showing them that I'm trying to invest in the relationship. And I'll end on that, and that is just the relationship management, is to find a way as a company, as individuals in my company to go to clients, work on developing a relationship with the individual as opposed to trying to have yourself fit the culture. Because if you have a good relationship with the individuals, the other stuff starts to fall down and break down.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let me just say a couple of things to Tim and some of the questions real quick. Can anybody innovate? One question I get all the time is, are entrepreneurs born or can they be trained? And the answer to that is yes. They are born and they can be trained. But let me talk to one thing about engineers. And here, the last set that I had, it said Sennheiser on it. It's a German company I've worked with. Sennheiser is a fantastic company. And the man that started the company is a professor. They call him the professor. The guy's 90 years old. They still wheel him into the company. And he's part of the company. And he'll go to R&D and he'll do just what Tim said. Innovate. Innovate. And the R&D people said, what do we do? They called me into the company, and it was one of the most fascinating meetings I think I've ever had, was that they took their 3 research and development engineers and their 3 top marketing people, and we met together for 2 days in New York. The marketing people being creative and saying, why don't we do this? And the engineering people saying, can't be done. Why don't we do that? Can't be done. And for 3 days, or for a day, that went on. And finally I said, can you make this happen? Can it be done? Well, it can be done, but it'll be very hard. Okay, it can be done. One thing they talked about was making sound waves. You know the normal sound waves we have? They asked, why can't we have sound waves travel with light, in a beam of light? It'll be faster, it'll be cheaper, and we'll own the entire bandwidth. And the engineers started by saying, can't be done. At the end of 2 days, it was not a bad idea. It can be done. They started thinking about it. It took bringing them around to the idea. Now, one thing that I'm going to be is very flexible. And here's what we're going to do. We're running a little bit late on time. And because we only now have about 2 hours. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to section number 4. Okay? Section number 3 talks about how to do a deep dive into what drives the values and needs and discovering those of the customer. I want to jump to number 4 because number 4 is going to work directly off the sheets you did this morning. And we're going to be building our 3-circle model, and then we're going to do the last module, and that's where the innovation comes from. That's where we're going to begin to create new ideas, to grow our area A. So we've got to do this. Okay? We've got to do this. All right. I mentioned this morning that we did analysis on executives and how they, when they talk to customers, when they actually talk to customers, what they learn. is what we would have them do is exactly what you did this morning, and then we'd say, go talk to the customers what they think the attributes are. How important they think those attributes are. And this is what we found. 94% of the executives said they made me more certain about the customer needs. They made me more confident that I knew what the customer really wanted. 71% said the customer suggested needs I hadn't even thought of before. I hadn't even thought about that before. But talking to them, 71% said that the customer pointed out needs that the company wasn't even aware of. Try this one. Talking to the customer led to obvious conclusions about what we should do. 82% of the time. You want to innovate? You want to create? You want to look at, talk to the customer. What I tell them, a lot of executives is, talk to your sales representatives. Nobody ever talks to sales representatives. They're the loneliest people in town. Those people are, anybody here a sales representative? These people sit in hotel rooms and try to get in customers, and they're all out to the job fairs and to the industry fairs, and they're talking, they're meeting their competitors all the time. They got a lot of information up there. Talk to them. They have real information. Talk to your customers. All right. The third circle that we need to jump into. We've started to talk a little bit about the customer circle. And there's that firm, us, we know more about us than anybody, but we got to find out about the competitor as well. And competitors can have the same product, exact same product as us. It can be the same product category as us, or it could be some generic related, or it could be just something that's a substitute product for us. There's different levels of competitors here, right? Some competitors, if I ask you who your biggest competitor is, or your biggest competitors, you could probably tell me. But I've got to tell you, you can move out and there's some other competitors that are substitute products for you. If they're not using electricity, baby, they can use natural gas. Even though natural gas is a form of energy that's very different from electricity, it is a substitute product for electricity. I could go nuclear as well. And nuclear or wind, there's substitute products out there for you. I can drive to work in my car, or I can ride a bike, or I can ride a bus, or I can walk. Sidewalks, walking down the street can be a competitor to a car. And so we have to decide who the competitor is for you. Who is your biggest primary competitor in that market segment? It's very important. Because here's what we have. The outside view of this three-circle model means this. The customer has desired needs, values. They seek benefits. We have competencies and skills and resources that we're not using. Sometimes we call those disequities because they're not being used. Where we match, those are equities. That's when our company matches the customer. Those are equities. That's where we make our money. We want to use all of this if we can, and we want to meet all of these if we can. But we want to make this space as big as possible. Now, when we throw the competitor in there, we know everything gets messy. We know that. We don't want a very big area B. Because area B is a commodity. If this whole area here were area B, we're not going to be making a lot of money. And we're going to be competing on price, and it is going to be ugly. You're not going to have a very big margin. This is where our margins are. That's where our profit is. And we want to make that as big as possible. They're down here saying we want to make ours as big as possible too. And if they could wipe out your area A altogether, they would. If they could make this whole thing area C, they would. So this is where their profit is. This is where our profit is. We're making profit here, but it's small. Okay? This is that point of parity. It's parity, equality. This is differentiation. This is differentiation. All right. Now, here's what's interesting. United Foods thought they owned the market. United Foods supplies foods to restaurants all over the United States. All over the United States. And here's what they said when we talked to them. They said, this is us, this is the customer, we're so good. Look at us, we are so, look at us. This is our area of A. We're present in all of the U.S. markets. We have state-of-the-art delivery, warehousing systems. We efficiently move our product. We have an entire fleet of trucks.